Welcome into another episode of the Make It Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore, here again with Wade Christensen, Ethan Hrabe. How's it going, guys?
Going good, brother.
So, I'm going to say I'm in a lot of pain today, but I'm feeling good.
Well, I'm glad that you fought through it to come on and talk about the thing that put me in pain last weekend, which is the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
Nice segue.
Yeah, it's as good as it's going to get.
Mine is binge drinking, which is technically a form of alcoholism.
No.
I'm just having a little hair of the dog here.
Well,
I think I need the whole dog.
I don't even know where to start with Money in the Bank because we had this conversation before we decided to record, which is that basically we've not been watching wrestling. I've only really watched WrestleMania, and then I think for the first week I tried to watch various highlights on YouTube, you know, kind of just as an experiment because that's not really the way I've watched. I know that there's a lot of fans now that's literally how they consume wrestling. So it was a little bit of just research, but also like I was busy, and by the time it was done, you know, like I know a lot of other people had more time than ever, but I had less, and I definitely wasn't going to spend the little free time I had watching empty arena shows that just didn't do it for me. There wasn't enough there to keep me in. What is your guys' viewing experience of wrestling been like during the stay-at-home orders? Wade, we'll start with you.
I've been watching YouTube clips here and there. Honestly, really the only clips that have interested me at all, WWE-wise, I've really liked the storyline with Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman, like bringing the Black Sheep back. I really liked their kind of like back and forth. It was pretty decent, you know, considering what's going on in wrestling right now. And besides that, the only other thing I've been watching, like as far as matches, I've been watching all the Brody Lee squash matches because God bless him. But besides that, like that's really it. That's all the real wrestling I've been watching. I watched Undertaker's Last Ride. That was great. Dark Side of the Ring has really been filling a wrestling hole in my life lately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to go into that for too long, but man, I was really kind of like let down by the Road Warriors one. Like I wanted more.
I was gonna say the same thing. I think it was something that, and maybe it's just because it's such a well-known topic or subject of like Hawk having substance abuse issues, and that was basically the whole thing. There wasn't really anything deeper than that.
Yeah,
that you probably didn't already know. Like,
and that's not
like,
even what killed him.
Right? Yeah. It's like. It's one of those – it was kind of like what you had said about, like, the New Jack episode, is that if you watch enough other, like, small wrestling documentaries and interviews, like, then there are certain subjects that you already kind of know everything about. Like, that being said, Dark Side of the Ring still has a great form of presentation of that to where it is still entertaining and also does kind of reach a broader audience.
Well, I understand, like, it's bringing these stories to the masses and, you know, like – it's not just for marks. So
right.
Like I get the storytelling of it, but yeah, I was disappointed with the Road Warriors one. I really wanted more. Paul Ellering didn't really sound like he knew what he was talking about. Like he's like, oh, see, Animal always watched He-Man. That's why they called it Legion of Doom. Well, everyone fucking knows Legion of Doom's from Super Friends.
Yeah, that was confusing.
Some research, Ellering.
I think it adds to the story. I think it's very clear that Paul Ellering has no idea where these things are from, and I think it's just a funny anecdote. That's probably why they included it.
He's old. Episode. He's too busy thinking about soup. Like, just get him back to the home. Have Rachel take care of him.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the Road Warriors episode yet, but I have been watching a lot more of the episodes this season. The only one I didn't watch was New Jack, and for some of the reasons that Wade brought up, but I think mostly because what did I need to learn that I couldn't learn from looking up the video of him throwing the guy at the scaffolding? Like, that's the one clip I need. And you watch that, you hear the backstory to that, you can kind of move on. You kind of the rest of the story is pretty self-evident from that one moment.
They do cover his like return to the indie scene where he like stabbed a guy like 7 times in a match.
So like
that was pretty good.
I didn't tell Kinsey anything about it. I just turned on like the clip of him throwing the guy off the scaffolding. And she's watching like, what the hell? And I'm like, oh, don't worry. This guy continues to wrestle after this. Like, they don't stop it.
Yeah, you gonna fucking stop New Jack? That being said, that episode is really good, even though if you have watched a lot of his like shoot interviews and things like that, it's still a like very fun episode to watch. Fun is a weird word. I don't know if I'd say fun. It's a little demented. But
it's always interesting. Even if you know all the stories, like it's still like the way they present it is great. You know, it's like I know a lot of the like Andre stories, but like there's still something different when HBO puts together that documentary and has all the little pieces together. You know, all the things that we watch on YouTube and people have shoot interviews saying, it's cool, it's fun, like we spend the time to look at it. It's also great to see somebody put the time in to make a polished product. And WWE does a lot of polished documentaries, but they always hide the bad parts. It's like, we want all of it in there, and Dark Side of the Ring is able to do that. I don't really need them to uncover things we didn't necessarily know about. I just appreciate how much effort they put in, how well crafted it is, and the fact that they don't just skip over the really darker parts. That's why, you know, name it Dark Side of the Ring. That's exactly what we as wrestling fans want and are not getting from WWE. So I think this season has definitely been good. It has been the one bit of wrestling that I don't even think about it when I say the wrestling. I'm thinking like week to week when I watch. But yeah, throwing that on has definitely been fun. And in terms of, you know, what's going on with the story, you know, you're talking about the, you know, Bray-Braun Strowman. That'll be the first thing we jump into in Money in the Bank. I don't know which clips you were watching, because when, you know, they always do the video package before the wrestling match, and I'm like, okay, I got to miss out on any bad things that happen. They can sell me with a really great video package. And then I watch that video package. I'm like, there's nothing here other than the Black Sheep thing. I think they went in the right direction, but there's not a single bit in that video package that did shit for me. I'm like, okay, Braun Strowman can't cut a promo, so pick the best promo he cut over like 3 or 4 weeks. They put one promo from him, so he apparently shit the bed every week, because there was one bit of him talking. I thought the way the idea, that's exactly what we want, but I think it goes back to what WWE always does wrong. It's the execution, and the same thing happened in the match. When you're watching, they get rid of the live like logo in the corner because it's taped. And it's like, that means we're going to see the Fiend. Something awesome's going to happen. They did it pre-taped just so that the puppet tier wouldn't be seen under the table. Like, they were so worried about the potential of that. It's the only reason they did it taped. And so we expect something cool. And if you go the Black Sheep, it should come out organically in a match, or at least have a good turn. It was just like randomly they got bored. They're like, I don't know, have him go grab the mask finally. Like, no build up to that moment in the match.
Which that moment could have come over like a months long feud, you know, and been more genuine. Or if he is going to have it, you know, double cross, like having it all, it almost felt like they crammed an entire program into one match. And not even counting everything beforehand, but just the usage of the Black Sheep mask and them embracing and then him stomping on the mask. That could have happened over a much longer time span and mattered.
To me, it didn't even really feel like a real match. It just felt like a bigger promo leading up to what their real match is going to be.
Yeah, and hopefully that's the case, because, like that feud should be one of the biggest stories of the year, and it should, you know, I think you should have a Black Sheep, Braun Strowman, world champion puppet underneath the Fiend. Like, is this just gonna go full circle again to how like Bray Wyatt is like the shittiest cult leader ever? like he's got like no fucking followers. They always build him up like he's some kind of like he's got a mental hold on everybody, and then it's just like he's got no followers, or his followers leave him and he just falls to shit. He's got like 0 wives in character. Like, he's the worst cult leader I've ever heard of, and he makes David Koresh look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
All right, counterpoint. All of the followers, or the people who hold up the phones as fireflies back when he did the entrance. So the whole audience is the followers. And in terms of wives, he's banging JoJo, so he wins. Like
Plural wives, and that's
he had a wife at the time while he's begging.
yeah.
JoJo.
I'm talking about in character. In character. If they had brought that to life like they would have
Hey,
15
it's
fucking years
wrestling.
ago,
Everything's in
down.
character. Like this,
I
it
wish that
all
were
matters.
true.
All the pieces matter. So yeah, I
Fucking
think if your guys' game plan makes sense to make it a program, keep it rolling, then the end of the match needed to make more sense, or like just be better. If it's taped, you can redo it. Bray sitting in the corner just looking upset is bad because one, like I said, there is that expectation that the Fiend will show up. If you're not going to give us that, then what the Bray Wyatt needs to do, he needs to be in the corner sulking because Braun turned on him, and then at that last moment when Braun leaves, Bray, it turns to a smile. Like, just leave us knowing that more is coming instead of him just sulking in the corner. Like, you have to, like, if that's the character, if it's all theatrical, if you're never going to give us a goddamn good match out of Bray Wyatt and the then you need to tell that story. And that was just a lazy way to finish because it didn't hit with the mask the way Braun used that to get over on Bray. I don't know who's at fault. I don't even know if that's like a Vince telling them how to do it and they did it wrong. I feel like it's kind of on Bray and Braun that their acting ability did not make me care about that moment. Like whatever led in, partially it was just kind of the way the match was put together. It just didn't seem like this is the moment for him to pull out the mask and trick Bray. He was in control of the match at the moment he does it. Like it wasn't like Bray was kicking the shit out of him, So it just didn't make sense that Braun randomly went to go get the mask. If you're going to have Bray lose, you need to make it very clear that Bray the man is losing, but Braun is in trouble when the Fiend comes for him. And I get that you can do that over months. You have to do something during that match to tell that as well. And I don't think they did a very good job of that.
Well, and I think I put most of the fault for that on Braun. And it's not even really his fault. Like, he's not an actor. He's a strong man. And in this time of no audiences and like they're trying to do more acting in the ring than they are actual wrestling. Like there's a lot more theatrics and them like they're making a point for you to hear what they're saying to each other in the ring. Mm-hmm. And Strowman is just not. He doesn't have the charisma to cut a promo, but that's not who he is. He doesn't need to be out there cutting promos and being quippy and witty because he's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
And if they would just accept that he's a monster and doesn't need that to be able to compete with Bray Wyatt, mentally, he can compete with him physically. So quit trying to make Braun Strowman charismatic because it's never going to happen. And every time they do it, it just falls so flat. Like he cannot deliver a line. And I can't blame that on him because he's not an actor. So
yeah. Well, and so that I guess that's where I'd like to, split hairs here a little bit. I don't think it's that he doesn't have charisma. I think it is that he not an actor. He can't remember lines and he can't deliver them. But when I see him talking outside of wrestling and he doesn't have a script, I think there's charisma there. There is that super hillbilly type that's running around blowing shit up while riding on four-wheelers. He's like Stone Cold, but in a 6'10" body. I mean, he doesn't have the same level of charisma as Stone Cold, but in terms of that person, who he is, I think that is something people connect with. It's just you have to find a way to have him show that in the ring and not get stage fright. And it's just the way WWE is constructed with the scripts makes that impossible. They're giving him something to say. He definitely can't be Vince McMahon's hero. But if you just let him go out there and be who he is, I think there is a level of charisma there. It's just, you're right, no acting ability to sell what Vince McMahon is trying to make him sell.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what character he is supposed to be because it is like a half step between what Vince wants him to be and who he really is. Like you said, there's that aspect of that like redneck doing redneck shit kind of attitude where he's in his domain, I think you're going to get a lot better character work out of him. But right about now, he's got about as much expression as me in this Sin Cara mask, and it's kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
I would imagine the best version of Braun Strowman trying to, be himself. He should basically be the Tiger King husband that divorced him. So it's like, here's what he's like on his own. Like, here's the fun shit he wants to do. But obviously, he has to do all this other shit he's not very keen on. Like, that's the time he has to spin with Bray Wyatt doing all this cult shit. He's like, I don't really like it, but I'd love to just go out and blow shit up. So, you got to take the good with the bad. That could probably be a pretty strong Braun Strowman character in this feud with Bray Wyatt. But, yeah, I wanted to like what they were doing. And, you're right, Wade. Like, that black sheep, they did the story we wanted. It's always the execution.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where – let's talk about Money in the Bank real quick because – I started out, and from the Facebook messages, you guys know how much I disliked the Money in the Bank match. And then I stop and jump on Twitter, and most people enjoyed it. What Vince's vision, people connected with. That campy fucking shit that upset me.
The best part of the match is Brother Love taking a shit. I didn't hate that part. I hate a food fight in wrestling. Never a fan of a good food fight in wrestling. Outside of wrestling, it's great wrestling. But within wrestling, it's terrible. But as a whole, the concept of the match, I didn't really hate. Maybe this goes back to the execution side of it being, half of it is just wrestlers running down hallways. I could maybe have used more. I could have used more campiness, maybe. Go really off the deep end with it.
I think it has to be good, and that's where, I said it was Home Alone 4. It's like, I'm not saying that, I'm not going to be that purist that's like, you're making wrestling look dumb, da-da-da-da-da. Like, if that's the game plan, that's fine. I just think it's poorly written. I think the ways you have to do it, if you're going to have a story where, in this case, I'm saying Home Alone 4 because I'm comparing the quality, but it's also, you're doing Home Alone in the goddamn headquarters. Like, that's all you're doing. You have all these weird little bits where physical humor, people getting hit in situations that you're not going to see in a normal wrestling match. If you're going to do that, like, it has to still be about winning. Like, if everybody running around, and I know we watch ladder matches where there's a level of suspension of disbelief because it's like, why are you jumping off instead of going to get the title or the briefcase? Like, what the hell are you doing? But in this case, they're all going up the building. They're like, figured out, should I use an elevator? Should I use the stairs? They're interacting in a way that you can tell they're in on the joke. Like, do all the jokes, but still make them have a purpose. Make them be aiming to win the Money in the Bank. And in that way, you can do a lot of the things that happen in Home Alone. Like, why does Home Alone work? It's not just because you guys are funny. It's because Joe Pesci is a scary motherfucker. Imagine being a 10-year-old kid home alone and Joe Pesci's trying to break in. Doesn't matter that he's tiny. He's a scary man. Like, that's the key is if you're going to do this sort of fighting through and have all these little, physical humor bits, then you need to have a reason to think they're really doing this. Like, this is a real thing that's happening between these wrestlers. So, food fight, it's only bad because they shouldn't be stopping to do a food fight. They should be wanting to win to go get the Money in the Bank. How does throwing food at your opponent help you get to the Money in the Bank, get to the roof faster? It doesn't.
Because it's such good shit.
And if we're going to just, like, narrow in on, like, the fact that these people are bad at telling jokes, the best one is the one that I think people really love was AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan going into Vince's office, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, the moment it happens, I know everything that's going to happen in that scene. I know that they're going to get yelled at. I know that they're going to leave. I know Vince is going to use Pharrell. Like, I could see Pharrell as they walked in. What would have been funny is if AJ Styles used the Pharrell because he was wearing gloves. Like, that would have been a good moment. He uses Pharrell and takes off. Like, do something that's actually funny. And instead, they're they're like roaming around funny for way too long. The matches were too long. Took them too long to get to the roof. And why is Asuka in an elevator 10 minutes longer than everybody's running up the stairs? Nothing made
Well,
sense.
why did Baron Corbin try to stop Asuka from getting
to me, this is the biggest flaw in the entire match.
That made
really is.
zero sense. I was at that point, I was like, oh, is it just one? Like, there's only one
That's
person
exactly what I
like
thought,
this?
too.
And then, no, that's not why. No, it's just nothing.
They definitely
Just
shouldn't have had both matches at the same time. Like, the only thing I could imagine that was meant for was the spot where they fight each other. And it's like, was that really worth it, having Rey Mysterio get crushed? Like, what was the benefit of having the matches running simultaneously? Like, other than a shorter show, which, fine, but...
Yeah.
I think you could have done one that had the whole Titan Tower scramble or whatever, and then do one that's just a true, Money in the Bank ladder match at the Performance Center. I think you could have done it that way. Because that did confuse me, having, like Wade said, like, after Asuka wins, I was like, so was there only one Money in the Bank this year? And then they keep going. I can't think of one reason why Corbin would want to stop Asuka from winning.
And
Also,
not even succeed in doing it.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was like for a split second I was like, well, maybe this is going to be some sort of like alignment with some other girl, then it becomes, Baron Corbin and this girl now are doing something, but it literally, like, it was for nothing.
Yeah, if I was
just
looking at
confusing.
Baron Corbin still commits his 2 murders, which nobody mentioned again, and Rey Mysterio showed up, so that's bull crap. I don't know if Aleister Black was
what
on
the
there
hell
this week.
is, like, I feel like when we were kids and wrestlers got murdered, they were gone for at least 3 months. Like, have a little dignity, have some class. When you die in wrestling, you should be gone for, at least till SummerSlam.
Especially during this time. It's like, we don't need all these bodies at the Performance Center. Like, you get murdered, it should be easy to take 3 months off.
Well, if you remember, Hulk Hogan once threw the Giant off of a building, and then later on that night, the Giant would show up unscathed and win the World Championship with the help of the Yeti.
That's just, like, ridiculous storytelling, though. Like, they're trying to say he's that strong. But to just throw somebody off a roof and they appear the next night and, like, nobody mentions it is a little ridiculous. I think Baron Corbin should have taken both briefcases. I think that should have been his thing, is now he is double Money in the Bank. He can cash in twice. Like, that's what I would do. Super heel. If you're going to keep going down that route of pissing off smart fans, give them both Money in the Banks.
Ethan, did you just drink through your mask?
I don't want to talk about it. It didn't really work out. Let's just say I'm gonna have to launder this thing later.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that match, once again, like, I'm not going to be the purist about it that says that it can't work. I just think it didn't work. But once again, if Twitter loves it, if there's a lot of fans that normally would be complaining, had a good time, then it worked. Then, Vince was aiming for that crowd. It worked.
That's what wrestling's all about.
And it just doesn't do anything it's not going to make me come back to watch the next one or that week. I didn't watch anything this week for AEW or for wrestling except AEW. I threw it on for a little bit, and even that, I was like, this is better. It's good. Like, WWE really should copy having the wrestlers at ringside. But other than that, I still it wasn't enough for me, and I'll probably watch any pay-per-view that comes up. I'll throw it on, but I'm definitely not going to jump back into wrestling until audiences come back.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's week to week. AEW is the only one that's watchable, I feel like, at this point. But even then, it kind of depends on I don't know, the weight or the program that's actually going on. I mean, can we talk about Sammy Guevara getting hit by a fucking golf cart? That's the best thing I've seen in wrestling in like 6 months.
That's pretty good.
My I forget what like her job title is, but the lady who like is an office manager for the CT for the Courier Tribune, she's a wrestling fan and she likes AEW, and she was actually talking with me like, did you watch the street fight? And I was like, oh no, I haven't watched it. She's like, you can't miss the street fight, hilarious. And so I like otherwise was not going to watch anything, like I'll throw it on, and then boom, Sammy Guevara gets hit by the golf cart. So good time. It's good that my like middle-aged office manager is like keeping me up to date on what's the only wrestling necessary to watch.
That's the perfect metaphor for what's happening in the world of wrestling right now.
Yeah, I've gotten like a bunch of messages from like pretty new fans, like how excited they are that Otis won, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like I'm glad you're happy.
Did you see
but
the backlash of Smart fans mad that Otis got it? Like he was,
No.
it
only
started
seen
coming
positive.
out. Yeah, it started coming out like as soon as it happened, just kind of like people turning on Otis and that they keep pushing him like too fast. And it's like, there's just no way to make these fuckers happy. Like it's not possible.
My problem with it is, where do we go from here? Because Otis is not going to win the big belt. Like, get real. Like, he is not going to win the Universal
that's what
title.
they said about Jinder Mahal, okay? And look where it got him.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah,
but
some of us want Otis to win. We never wanted Jinder Mahal to win, so it made perfect sense that they gave it to him.
I feel like this is just honestly like a setup for a heel to somehow take the briefcase from him.
Like Mandy Rose is actually with Ziggler.
Yeah.
Mandy takes it, gives it to Ziggler, and that's the turn.
I could see that being kind of the angle, is it somehow involves Dolph Ziggler going over.
Yeah, he's had one of the most memorable cash-ins ever. Like, I would say that would be the biggest probably career moment Dolph Ziggler's ever had, was cashing in and beating Alberto Del Rio the day after Mania.
Oh, not getting covered in shit as a part of the Spirit Squad. That wasn't the biggest career moment.
It's up there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Top
it is.
5 at least.
Number 2.
I think with Otis, it's hard to imagine them letting him win, but I mean, God, if you're gonna have a bad summer of like nothing else to happen, I could see Vince jumping on board to like the feel good story of letting Otis win, and it won't be a long reign, but it's not the worst.
Well, and maybe this could be the first time someone cashes in on a belt that's not the big belt. I could see Otis as a U.S. champ or an IC champ. Maybe he cashes in for a tag belt. I don't know. I don't know the rules of Money in the Bank. All I know is like it's a contract.
There's no specific rules.
Yeah, you can cash in for a chance at a belt, but like I don't think they've ever specified it has to be the world title. So maybe, but it's going to be interesting how they play this off with Otis, because he's not a top guy. I mean, there's no other way to say it. He's not. Especially at this point in his career, he's definitely not. So it'll be interesting.
I think if he had kept his last name, he'd have a better shot at it.
What was his last name?
Dozovic?
Yeah.
Dozovic? Okay.
The Dozer.
Otis Dozovic. Yeah. Sounds more like a world
makes
champion
sense.
than just Otis.
That's a last name we've all heard a lot, so yeah.
I don't know. Otis is kind of like Kobe. I think it's a better choice for a champion.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I don't know where they're gonna go with it. I'm fine with Otis winning, even Baron Corbin finally lost, is like the first one with the Money in the Bank to not successfully cash in. So it doesn't mean Otis has to win. And even if he did win, I mean, to keep telling that Otis story, he could win and then the next night, be forced into a match where he gets screwed over. You kind of do like the Mankind getting screwed over when he won, like he's just holding the belt because that's the transition for whatever assholes is deciding to use him. I think there are ways to make this work. I'm fine with it. And I just don't know what else there is going on Money in the Bank. Like, I was trying to think of what to transition to talk about, but nothing else happened. Do we want to spend 10 minutes talking about how awful Bayley and Sasha are? Like,
no.
Can we talk about why they're forcing Drew McIntyre to shake Seth Rollins' hand at the end of a match?
I think it was more about Seth than it was Drew. I think it was about Seth turning and, once we find out that Becky's pregnant, Seth just looks pissed off. And I don't know if it's about the baby or about having to shake Drew McIntyre's hand, but either way, I think it's supposed to be about his story, not really anything about Drew other than he's the true competitor and Seth's a whiny little bitch.
Well, it's just so like it's forcing Drew McIntyre into a position of a like John Cena type of babyface where he's going to shake hands and stuff. And to me, that is not the character of Drew McIntyre. He doesn't need to be shaking hands. It's just that. And I hate the countdown to the Claymore. I think it's
it's the worst thing
pandering
about his character right now. Yeah.
It's just pandering to get the crowd to count down with him, and it's not natural. It's not like, you know, the crowd started counting down as he's, you know, pumping up in the corner. It's just something he started doing, trying to get the crowd to count with him, and it's pandering, it's cheap, and then to have him shake his hand at the end, it's just like it seems to me like they're pushing Drew McIntyre into a John Cena type of position. And that is not the character that I want to see. I want to see that Scottish psychopath, man, like that Stone Cold level guy that like, hey, yeah, I probably should be shaking your hand, but look out for that stunner, you know? Like, oh, hey, I'm shaking your hand, but not fucking really. And like that's what I want Drew McIntyre to be. He needs to be a badass and not a Boy Scout.
Yeah, I would say that this already happened. Like, it wasn't the handshake that made that transformation. I mean, they were doing the John Cena push, like, back before he beat Brock. Like, this is the character that
that's when it started,
As soon as he won the Royal Rumble, he was becoming that, and they got rid of the heel side. And I think most of what he was doing wasn't organic. It didn't feel natural, but the fans cheered. And once again, like, I'm not going to be the one that stops somebody I really enjoy from getting over. If the smart fans get tricked, I'm fine with it, and we'll see where it goes. And I would say for the handshake, that's like the one thing I think makes sense. I think if Drew McIntyre is going to be this guy who is a real competitor who comes in and he shakes his hand, it can be different than John Cena's Boy Scout. It can be like this non-toxic masculinity. It's that Drew McIntyre is stronger and better than you. And in this case, playing mind games. Like, he's not going to just attack you. Like, he's not the heel anymore. He's the face. But he's going to shake Seth Rollins' hand and fuck with Seth Rollins, who, you know, at this point, he should be pissed enough at Seth Rollins to keep attacking him. But instead, it's like, nope, I beat you like a man. I will shake your hand like a man, and you're going to have to deal with it. I'm better than you. It's like, passive aggressive shade, like he's Michael Jordan or some shit. Like, he's like, he could be a dick to you, but at the end of the day, if you walk off the court without shaking my hand, you're dead to me and you're not on the dream team. Seth Rollins, you can't make it on the dream team. You better shake my damn hand.
Just real quick, I want to say how sickened I am. You just used the term toxic masculinity when talking about wrestling.
I said non-toxic masculinity.
But
he's a good role model.
But as the resident progressive, I'll let it pass.
Yeah, I definitely I gotta take this fucking thing off. This is oh god.
I'm proud of you for keeping it on that long.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Now I know why Sin Cara is such a fucking botch monkey. Can't fucking breathe in that thing. All disoriented right now.
It's called commitment. It's called commitment, Ethan.
Well, I got about 10 minutes of commitment in my body right now. Also, fuck you. You have like a mouth space. Rey Mysterio was a smarter wrestler with smarter masks.
True.
That's
God. Where am I? Okay. Yeah, I actually do. You convinced me, Mac. I started out in that conversation. The handshake was weird to me, but I guess I get it. But I'm gonna stand with Wade, and the countdown to the Claymore is the worst thing about Drew McIntyre.
Also, Wade's right long term. Like, Drew, that is where the character's going, and it's going to suck. I'm not really surprised by it, and I just think the handshake to me is like the least offensive of the types of things Drew McIntyre has been building up. So it was weird to go into WrestleMania and be like, this is kind of our savior. And that's probably why I was extra pissed that Brock match was this formulaic finisher heavy thing. Because it was like, the only thing I've liked about Drew since January is what he does in the ring. If you're going to take away how badass he is in the ring and just give me, all he's got is a goddamn Claymore, then it's like, this isn't going to work for me. Like, I need him to wrestle, which of Money in the Bank, Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins, that was a really good match. It's one of those things where the audience was there. We could argue how good it was. Took so long without an audience. I think that's the biggest thing is this match was perfect from beginning to end, but I didn't care until midway through. And even then, I didn't get as excited as I would for a match that was of that caliber. They did an amazing job. I hate the countdown, but I do love the Claymore out of nowhere. I'm glad that when he actually beats him, it is coming off the rope, and it is something that, we don't need the countdown for when he gets over. It's these two have they've put out all their energy in the ring, and Drew McIntyre found a way to get the Claymore, roll on to Seth Rollins, get the pin. Great finish. And yeah, from there with the handshake, it's just kind of like I could see where the handshake works. The problem is Wade is 100% right. This is where Vince is sending that character, and it's just going to keep getting worse. It's going to keep building up. Yeah. And eventually, once the Spark fans realize this is what's going on, they're going to revolt, and you're going to ruin Drew McIntyre.
I do agree with you, though. I think it was a really good match. I think Rollins and McIntyre have really good in-ring chemistry. But I think the match would have been even better if they would have like normally leading up to big pay-per-views and stuff, like they will run, a string of house shows together, preparing for that big match on TV. And like I wonder how much better that match would have been, had they been running house shows the last couple months and, preparing for this big match. I remember the last house show I went to in Topeka, there was just a random match between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens were the main event. And it was a great match. And then it was like a month later, I saw that almost same like move for move match on pay-per-view. And I was like, oh, they were preparing for this. Okay, makes sense. So I think, yeah, if Rollins and McIntyre would have had some of those, house show loops to, prepare even more for this match, like it would have been even more incredible. But without that, it was still really good. Probably best match of the night. Easy.
I mean, there weren't that many matches to
exactly. So. That's why it's easy.
All right. I know that, Ethan, you said you don't want to talk about it, but I do have to complain about Bayley and Sasha because there's just a handful of jokes I have to get in.
Hey, as long as it's all negativity, I'm here for.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course it is. One, it just never made sense to make Tamina in the match. Anyways, I think there's been nothing that's happened with Bayley and Sasha that has worked. It's not even Bayley is a good enough wrestler that it's not even bad enough for them to stop. They're just going to keep putting these lukewarm matches on that are never going to stop. The reign of Bayley, I don't know how they're going to end it, because usually if it's bad enough, you just pull the belt. If it's really good, you find a way to transition somebody else into a rivalry with her. I don't even know how you get to that point. I don't know who you throw in. Do you just let her get squashed by anybody else? I don't know, and I don't know when Vince will get to that point where he thinks that's what we should do. But like watching Sasha out there, where she changes her outfit to go from being the sidekick to the side chick. Bayley's got the hair to make that duo match. Like, I don't know what they're trying to accomplish. Like, it's not good for either character. This, even the idea that they'll fight each other, I don't want to see them fight each other. So you're building up nothing to me. Like, you just need to get the belt off of her. And so I almost wanted Tamina to win, which I don't think I could have imagined me ever saying, that I want Tamina to win the women's title.
That's how you get Tamina over. And they had their opportunity, and they botched it. I don't know what your intended outcome is from the match of Tamina versus Bayley. Like, it honestly is like Tamina versus Bayley in an empty arena match sounds like the least interesting thing I could watch in wrestling right now.
That's so sad too, because like I want to like Tamina. Like, Tamina has a presence about her that is like.
Yeah, her presence is like a mom that's bored of waiting in the pickup line at her fucking kid's school. Like, just like an irritated mom. That's Tamina's energy.
Like, I loved her, like the little tags she had with Nia. Like, I loved them together. Because I think Tamina's super underutilized. And I think she has been since she started with the company. And I think most of that is just because of all the bad press her murderous father has.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it's just that
I'm going to say it doesn't help. I'm gonna say it doesn't help.
There's no real character with her. You know, she came in and she was like with the Usos for a while, and then she goes off on her own. And like, you know, the craziest part is they haven't found who she is. Like, maybe you lean into the murderous father thing so she has something to go off of, because otherwise she's just rambling forward. They had something with Nia Jax that kind of worked, but like at the end of the day, like, if you're going to throw her into a rivalry with Bayley, like, if Tamina's whole thing is looking like upset and having that whatever, you know, soccer mom face that Ethan describes, like, she has to be the heel, right? Well, then why is she going up against Bayley, who's a bad heel? Like, none of that really works. And at this point,
Tamina's by far, like, Tamina has to be a heel. Like, Tamina has to be a heel.
Tamina's 40, and she's not going to get better at wrestling. She's not going to be able to, you know, be better on the mic. So you use what you got, and at this point, it was her with Nia Jax just beating the shit out of anybody they went up against. And you have her, you know, if she's facing a Bayley or she's facing these smaller wrestlers, she should beat the crap out of them and then still lose. Like, do it that way. But at this point, she's put in the wrong positions, and then I don't care enough about her, and I definitely don't care about anything Bayley's doing. So it's been very difficult for me to start paying attention to these matches, and then to have Becky Lynch kind of just be sitting on the outside and hinting at, you know, this announcement. Once again, Seth Rollins put the great competitor on the shelf. Like, this has just been a bad week. Kinsey was actually really upset when she got the Becky Lynch news. Like, when she found out that Becky Lynch was pregnant, she was just like, I'm done. Can't watch this. Like,
you know,
your career for a child, ridiculous.
I think it's actually perfect for Becky Lynch. I feel like she's been riding high, and that's been about a year and a half of her just kind of being on top. And I think you always run that risk of kind of turning that sort of character into like your like Hulk Hogan just pre-heel turn, when people are just kind of like, they get it, they're still supportive, they're still like, okay, yeah, that's the good guy, but the fire is gone, the spark eventually. I'm not saying it was, but I'm saying you could have been getting near that territory.
They were definitely running out of things to do with her.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that you can. I don't know if this is a, you know, forever like leave of wrestling, retirement necessarily. You know, I think maybe in a couple of years you do bring her back. You know, maybe bring her back and have her pop up as a Royal Rumble return or something. I think that's easy to do.
The baby should be born in December, so that's perfect to come back for WrestleMania.
You don't know how post-pregnancy works, do you, Wade?
Yeah, well, I've seen women work out to come back, and you look at Becky Lynch's cardio. If anybody's going to do it, it's Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
I just want to know if it was an immaculate conception.
The Messiah.
You know that angle's coming. It has to be.
I hope. Because as we all know, the best storylines in WWE always come from a pregnancy. So,
yeah, of course. I think
that's what really made the career of Gene Snitsky.
It's a great moment I'll never forget. I think, Ethan, you're right about Becky Lynch. The time off should be something that helps. It's also, you know, to keep making Jordan Last Dance references so that we can point to things in popular culture that people love. It is like the retirement that, you know, Jordan was gassed. Becky Lynch is gassed right now. There's little she can do to improve on her legacy. So she takes some time off. The way Jordan wanted to play baseball, Becky Lynch wanted a child. I mean, I feel like Jordan's was a smarter decision, but whatever. You know, like I imagine with Seth Rollins making the baby, I mean, you're going to bat less than 200 with babies. She's going to need a few babies because Seth Rollins is bound to curb stomp a couple of them. So I just don't know if this parenting thing is a good decision she's making. But maybe she'll come back in a couple of years and have another three-peat.
And not to mention, Becky's gambling addiction got her father killed.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels. I I think it
Are they still working on Space Jam 2? Is that going to be a thing? Because I kind of feel like we're hitting the perfect crossroads here.
I feel like they've been working on Space Jam 2 for 10 years.
Well, I mean, LeBron actually like put in to like try to do it in the last like 3. So see if they try to do it, it'll at least be better. I mean, I'm gonna be the Space Jam truther. Space Jam is not good. So you can make whatever face you want. It's not a good movie.
Wow. Fine.
Not good.
See you later, YouTube viewership.
I've told them already.
Goodbye, YouTube viewership.
I've already told
Goodbye,
them.
all of our fan base.
Michael Jordan,
There's just some
Looney
things
Tunes,
don't say out loud, Mac. What the fuck?
I said it out loud when I was 5. As a 5-year-old, I thought this wasn't good. Even 5-year-old Mac knew that Jordan can't act.
Oh, you mean 5-year-old Mac was a dick? Shocker.
Yeah. Jordan can't act. Like, literally, if I had to make a list of Bill Murray performances, that's his worst. Like, it's amazing. They couldn't even have Bill Murray hit a home run. That's how bad Space Jam is. You can make whatever face you want, Wade.
Man, you think you know
last time
somebody.
you watched Space Jam?
Yeah.
When's the last time you watched it?
Like it was as soon as it got put on Netflix?
Yeah, a few years ago.
Jesus Christ. And you liked it. You went back and
man.
Yeah.
I had a monster.
It's enjoyable.
Jersey, hit him high, hit him high, hit him high. Hit him low, hit him low, hit him low. It's the shit.
Charles Barkley is one of the most charismatic individuals. I'll watch NBA, Inside the NBA, just to see the dumb shit he says. It's great. He was not charismatic in Space Jam. That's how bad that movie was.
They stole his talent.
He lost his talent before they stole his talent. He had no charisma before that. Like, how do you make Charles Barkley not entertaining? They did it.
This is the most offensive promo since Bubba Ray Dudley in ECW. Like, this is some things you're just not supposed to say out loud in public. Maybe yell out of a car window. I don't know. But, like, this is a step too far.
I'll watch Trainwreck with LeBron. I'm done with that. I don't need to see Jordan ever try to act again. Don't need it. Don't want it. Not good.
Yell at a car window. Ethan, that killed me.
Popping weight is the only joy I have left in life.
Yeah, I'll still never figure out how the heat wave incident's not a hate crime, but someday we'll figure it out.
Dude's in the Hall of Fame. Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, somehow.
Hulk Hogan got banned for like a year or whatever, however long. A couple years. I don't know how long he was blacklisted, but not saying he shouldn't have been, but.
Anything else for Money in the Bank that matters?
Not really. I don't think so. I think they should have skipped this pay-per-view. I mean, like, why do a ladder match in front of nobody? Should have been skipped.
It really was barely even a ladder match. That's kind of the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and also
no reason to take ladder bumps.
I thought Money in the Bank usually came after Backlash or Extreme Rules. I thought Money in the Bank was like June or July usually.
Who knows?
It's sometime in the summer. It wasn't like it was moved or something else got canceled. Money in the Bank was the thing that was supposed to happen at this time frame, and then it was supposedly canceled, and then they're like decided that doing it at the headquarters made sense and whatever else. And I don't know. At this point, with the way things are reopening, I mean, if people are going to get together and, ruin any sort of effort we put together to, flatten the curve, then I don't think it's that bad anymore to have two people wrestling in a ring, like what was essentially like a very reckless move by Vince McMahon shortly after all the stay-at-home orders went down. Like now it's like he's not even the most offensive billionaire in this country right now. Like Jeff Bezos is single-handedly keeping COVID alive. Elon Musk is right there behind him. So Vince is fine at this point. And, I think the only problem is without the audience, it's hard to make a show that really draws people in. And from there, you're just kind of keeping it on television to make money. And I know some people are watching, so I'm fine with it. I don't have any moral like, hey, stop doing this every week. I'm still also not going to watch. And like I told you guys, and I'll tell our fans now, we're probably just going to do pay-per-view recaps, which also means I think Double or Nothing's still supposed to happen next weekend, the 23rd, maybe something like that.
Sounds right.
So we'll do a recap for that. But any sort of previews, it's just there's no real point in doing it. Where I'm not going to watch enough of it to have a lot of good opinions going in. I'll have no idea what the matches are, and I'm not going to do a weird podcast where I'm reading off the Wikipedia page, surprised by every match because I didn't watch the show. We'll just do the recaps, talk about anything we liked or disliked. It should be interesting. We'll see if there's how much different we feel watching a pay-per-view with big matches on a show where I assume they will have a lot of the people ringside like they have, although, if you have somebody who's supposed to have a big match on the card, I don't know if you're going to also have them ringside for 4 other matches. So it should be interesting to see how AEW handles this when it is a empty arena pay-per-view. But we'll come back to talk about that. We're also going to keep doing various Q crews on the Tell Me More podcast. So we'll watch Space Jam and we'll talk about that and how much it sucks. How about that, guys?
Okay, fine.
Challenge accepted.
So that's about it. Anything you guys want to say before we finish on up?
I was hoping like most of this shit would be, taken care of by SummerSlam. But yeah, SummerSlam's in Boston, and I think Boston's already said they're not going to have any big meetings, like any big groups until after August. So it'll be after SummerSlam.
It's pretty much going to be next year. Like we're still, I think the vaccine timeline is close to, next March, and like at that point is the only time this really makes sense, because even as we reopen things and start getting out there and figure out how to do this safely, there's nothing safe about putting 20,000 people into arena. That's the exact thing that will cause this to flare back up, no matter how much it's leveled off. And we're gonna see stupid things like NFL trying to get going. Even an NFL team together doesn't make sense. They have the most money on the line, so that's why they want to do it so badly. But like having 100 people on a sideline is a bad plan. That's not going to change in August. It doesn't matter what, like we don't even need to see what goes on over the next couple months to know that that's bad and won't work. But they'll push it, they'll try, and a whole team will get COVID and it'll shut down the league and all this crazy stuff because they got to try to make money. I think anything that's fans in the audience, that will not happen until there's a vaccine. So we're in this for the long haul. I don't think anything will change. And who knows, like it could just disappear and it's one round, and by the next flu season it leaves. Everything that we know from similar viruses in the past says that's not going to happen. Until there's a vaccine, there's really not a good way to get people all out together, 20,000 people in one spot. So no good wrestling for a while. I would love to watch some NBA as no fans there. Like that seems like probably the perfect one. You got 12 people per team. Maybe put coaches in a position where they're not 4 coaches sitting there with those players, because the numbers game gets difficult there quickly, but easier to manage. And I think hearing the reactions of the players as they're playing is something we can enjoy. I don't know if any of you guys watched UFC from this last weekend.
I haven't. Not yet. I was planning on it, but
that's something that also translates better, because you think, okay, the roar of the crowd is a big deal, but honestly, we just want to see people punch somebody else in the face when we're watching UFC. And when you get to hear the coaches yelling out the, what they need to do to try to, get an advantage in the match, like those little sounds that you can hear are great. All the things that are wrong when we hear wrestling, when they just have more points where they have to emote and say things, and Bayley doesn't know how to trash talk, and it's awful. Stop having her talk during a match. Those issues go away with things like UFC and NBA when it is a real competition, because all of those things that we don't get to hear is something we want to, like we love watching NFL docs where you got mic'd up. So I think there's a lot of sports that can work minus fans. NFL isn't one, and obviously wrestling without fans, it's just, they can do it. It's not going to be good enough, and we're in for a very long year until that gets fixed.
I think I think I saw yesterday that they stripped Sami Zayn of the IC title because he said he wasn't coming back until there was a vaccine.
Yeah, and they started the tournament for that last night.
Yeah.
And that was
So-
interesting because they like stripped him and it became this big deal. And like, it's weird. It makes sense. You know, if he's not coming back, you take the belt off him. It doesn't have to be a getting heat thing. And, you know, I imagine it will get him heat, but they like made it seem like Vince was like punishing him. And they compared it to other people who had not, you know, wrestled in a month or whatever else. Like, no, he told you he wasn't going to wrestle. You take the belt and put it on somebody else. That's how wrestling. That's not Vince being childish. Vince will probably be childish going forward with Sami Zayn. Taking the belt off him is not that, you know. So,
and a big pat on the back to Sami Zayn for always standing his ground with WWE.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like they had their whole.
It's kind of
Saudi
amazing
Arabia.
that he still has a job. Honestly, like
It really is
having
like,
you know a strong moral compass.
like after they started their relationship with Saudi Arabia, and he started his like charity for Syria.
Yeah.
Like I was like, ooh, that's kind of, you know, that's crazy. And then to, you know, take another stand and say, you know, I'm not coming back until there's a vaccine, you know, like I'd say, you know, good for Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Probably the most babyface thing he's ever done.
It should be interesting to, you know, see how they use him and, you know, how much he can make that work when he does come back. Cause, you know, he's also a guy that he might just need time away that, you know, we take him for granted too much because so much of what he does is in the ring. And if he's gone for a while and then comes back and has one really big match when he comes back, it might just rejuvenate him and it rejuvenate the fans who have kind of, you know, they got used to what he's capable of doing. And he just, in the WWE system is not going to be able to put on those crazy matches, you know, every month for us. So it'll be interesting to see how he's used, you know, I guess a year from now. That's it. I think that we've hit all the topics we need to hit. We'll be back for, like I said, not Space Jam, but something. We'll talk. I think Ethan plans on joining me for McMillions podcast, so that one should be fun. Did you start watching Dave yet?
Are you talking to me? I've watched all the way through. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do one on Dave. Wade, before we get on out of here, tell me what you've been watching.
I started recently watching like The Walking Dead again, just for no reason other than I don't have anything else to watch. But I've been watching the Jordan documentary. Like that's the most recent thing. I tried watching The Outsider on HBO. Stop that about halfway through. Didn't like it. Right now there's really not anything that like I'm currently like keeping up with. I'm just kind of floating around, watching a little bit here, a little bit there.
I did catch that. I guess it's a couple years old, but I don't know how long it's actually been on Netflix. That Waco miniseries, limited release that they did.
My brother started watching that.
That was really good. And then like naturally, I get to the final episode, and it's like there's no uplifting anything. There's nothing like. And I knew that. I didn't know
figure that out on
what
Wikipedia.
I expected. I didn't know what I expected, like as far as their presentation goes, and it's just kind of like one of those things. It's like, and that's how Waco ended.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Fuck.
Mostly, I've just been watching weird little true crime documentaries on YouTube. Is honestly what I've been watching. Most of.
Oh, there is a new series that I think it's new on Netflix. I watched the first couple episodes. It's what's it called? Trial by Media.
One that Kinsey threw in the queue. We're supposed to watch that at some point.
It's pretty good. In the first episode, you will see who I believe to be the exact inspiration for Saul Goodman.
Yeah.
Jeff Feigert, I think is his name. And he could not be more Saul Goodman if he tried. Like it's so on the nose. Yeah, go ahead and give that a watch. That's a pretty good series. We might throw that in the queue for the Q Crew.
Cool.
Maybe for the next wrestling show, we could just do like fantasy booking where we'd like to see all of these wrestlers that recently got released from WWE. Fantasy book where we'd like to see them go and what programs we'd like to see them run. Because a lot of good people got released that could have great potential in New Japan and Ring of Honor. I mean, not Ring of Honor, but AEW. So and even NWA. Like, I think the Ascension could work in NWA, maybe. Same thing with the Revival or whatever the Revolt that they're calling themselves now. They look good in the new NWA, but I'd even more like to see them go to AEW and finally, have a match against the Young Bucks, and we can
That's
finally
gotta be where they're headed.
Just get that fuck the Revival thing. That was like the best thing Cody Rhodes did after he left WWE. Was just having whole crowds chant "fuck the Revival." So I'd like to see that happen somewhere. I know a lot of them are popping up on Brody Lee and the Revival recently were on Jericho's podcast and talking just good shit. I'm currently halfway through the most recent Jim Ross podcast with Jericho. I was listening to that right before you guys we got on here. So I love just hearing them all talk shit and just about the same problems that they have backstage over and over again. So yeah, that would be kind of cool. We just get a list of all those because they're even releasing more. There was even one that was released recently this week, but I don't remember. I think it was Paul Ellering's daughter, maybe.
Yeah. Rachel Evers left.
So yeah, it'd be cool to kind of just fantasy book where we'd like to see them go.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. We might do that in 2 weeks. I'm trying to think when I will have a day off and. Although I think that lands where the AEW Double or Nothing recap will be, but we'll can figure it out. We can probably also get back into the Heroes and Heels series. I still need to edit that Kane one and get that one up way later. So if I can find that on my laptop, I will edit that, throw it up, and then we'll pick a new one to watch. And yeah, it's probably a good idea to hit some of those style of wrestling because. Yeah, I definitely am not going to be able to do previews for a long time with wrestling, but, it doesn't mean I don't want to watch wrestling. This is a good time to catch up on some old stuff that I missed. And still need to send me that New Japan login, and I can start watching some of that at some point. They got going again, didn't they? They don't care about this.
I have no idea.
I don't think they have started.
I don't think they did. They canceled They canceled Best of the Super Juniors, so yeah. Tama Tonga's Twitter is how Wade keeps up with New Japan.
I love Tama Tonga, man.
So we'll figure that on out, and we'll get some more content out there for any Making a Mark wrestling fans. If you enjoy any sort of just banter, if you're here for more about us than just about the wrestling, we will still be producing podcasts for you guys to listen to, so keep up with that. And if you guys have enjoyed the YouTube releases, we plan on doing that, and even through the end of the stay-at-home orders, once we're able to actually hang out in person again, we still plan on doing the video side of it. So I hope people have enjoyed that part of the podcast, but that's all we have for this week. Hopefully Double or Nothing is a little bit better than Money in the Bank. That's all we have for this episode of the Make It Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. Later, folks.